What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Good Old Hockey Podcast. This is episode number 34. I'm Sean, that's Galli right there. And we just finished up the second round, the NHL Playoffs. We're recording this on Monday, though, so we don't know what the outcome of the Vancouver-Edmonton game is. Hopefully it's exciting and was good. We'll be watching that after. But we do have all the other series that have wrapped up, so we'll get into that. We've also got some fan or listener questions towards the end that we're going to talk about. And if you want to be a part of that next time, go follow us on Instagram. The handle is right underneath Galli, right there. If you're listening on Spotify, it's at Good Old Hockey Podcast. You can go find us on Instagram so you can compete and do all that stuff with us. But Galli, before I ask you about your weekend, I want to say something to the listeners out there or just the commenters and everyone. First thing is, we don't really know what we're talking about. At the end of the day, we're fans, and we hope you guys are too. We're not any, ex-NHL players that know the ins and outs of the game. Galli and I both grew up playing hockey, still play hockey to the day, and ultimately we just love the sport. So that's what we're talking about. We're not, we don't claim to be geniuses or anything like that. And, we've always wanted to just have a podcast where we're talking about hockey, and we're not ESPN analysis. And half the things we say, maybe come from a little place of poking fun at other fan bases, mainly because mine is sucking right now. So I can only make fun of
same
people.
Here.
Yeah, we all are. So it's more to poke fun at people and, just have a fun discussion here and there, little talking trash. And it's all in fun and love. And, nothing that we say is completely serious or that our opinion is correct. That's what this world needs. This world needs some more fun and less seriousness, especially in sports. That's what we're here for. But Galli, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're just giving our takes. People don't have to come at our throats and say they hate it or hate the podcast. I mean, we're just out here. But... It's easier said than done to go on and talk about hockey, and especially when you work a full-time job and doing this kind of on the side, it's pretty difficult to maintain and keep up that expert analysis. So sometimes our takes aren't all the way there, but it's a kick-ass time to talk to you guys. I enjoy all the comments, whether they're positive, negative. Makes us better if they're negative. So I mean, shout out for any sort of engagement. But yeah, we're just on here having a good time. Always good vibes only.
Yes, that's what we're here for. We're here for a good time. But with that being said, with a good time, how was your weekend? Did you have a good time?
Weekend was a pretty good weekend. Didn't get too crazy, but mostly just chilled, watched some hockey. Went on a little hike. Was not watching my brother's dogs or anything, but yeah, just taking care of my cat, hanging out with my girlfriend. It was pretty low key weekend to say the least. Nice. But yeah, like I said, lots of hockey watching for sure. Yeah. We'll get into that later, but how was your weekend, man?
It was pretty good. It was very, very relaxed. I don't think I've had this laid back of a weekend in a while. I don't know what it was. I think it's just the nice weather. I feel like Friday I wanted to do something outside. Well, we had a little bit of a fire in the backyard, drank some nice whiskey, just had a good relaxing weekend. But yeah, Saturday, Sunday didn't really do a whole lot. Watched hockey, obviously. And then also I've been following the Timberwolves a lot. If you can't tell by my jersey, I've got an Anthony Edwards jersey on. That man is the man. Next coming of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Just going to say it right now. But yeah, it was a pretty chill weekend. Really didn't do a whole lot. Honestly, I don't really have much to report.
Yeah, I did some yard work. If that was nice. That's probably the most exciting thing in my weekend. So yeah, did some yard work, did some trimming, planting some seed of grass in some dry areas in my backyard. So that was a good time. Started my 3v3 hockey league last week too, which we unfortunately lost 8-7. We were up 7-6. Okay, so hear this: we were up 7-6. Someone sniped our goalie with like 2 seconds left. This is kind of my fault. I was kind of hitting myself. I was like, dude, I could have maybe poke checked this guy. I could have maybe made a little bit more aggressive D, but he sniped regardless. We're also playing a team, and half the team is younger than me, which I'm pretty young for beer league. So it's like, this is a young team. Yeah. But it's also 3v3 half ice. And then in this league in specific, all the penalties that you get either if you get them in the first, so there's two halves. If you get them in the first half, then you go in for a shootout attempt. It's a penalty shot for penalty. So you could either do it if you get it in the first half, you do it at the intermission between the first and second, and if you get it in the second half, you do it after the game. So they tied it up 7-7, and then we took a penalty. So they had a penalty shot. Of course, they scored. So we lost 8-7 with 2 seconds left. It was brutal, man. But it's good to be back on the ice. Going to be doing that weekly. So very, very stoked on that. Go Hooligans.
When's your next game? Tomorrow?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. The day this episode drops. So yeah, that's funny. Oh yeah. Yeah, dude, I need to play in the fall. I just couldn't last year. It was too expensive. I didn't have any money. Still really don't, but here we are.
Same here.
Enough about our weekend. Here we go. We got some hockey talk, but yeah.
One second. I gotta pop out real quick. I just forgot that something's outside that I need to grab. Just one second. I'll be back in like 20 seconds.
All right. With that, here we go into hockey. We're not going to talk playoffs just yet. We do have some little bit of breaking news, I guess you could say, about the NHL world. Galli, kick it off with Mr. Matvei Mitchkov.
Yeah. So this is something I feel like it hasn't got as much of attention. And I wouldn't say it's the biggest piece of the two news stories we're going to be talking about in this Coast to Coast segment. But Matvei Mitchkov, I know this guy was one of the highest touted prospects. Basically in the year up to the 2023 draft, he was, a couple of years before that, he was almost head to head with Bedard. He was blowing, all these other prospects out of the water in terms of just junior point production. He was dominating the junior leagues in Russia. He was playing really good at the World Junior Cups, U18, U20, which I do think that Russia's ban in those kind of hurt his status maybe as a prospect, but we won't go into that too much. But there was a report this past week saying that he will likely be playing in Philadelphia next year, which he's actually going to forego his last 2 years of his KHL contract with SK St. Petersburg. So just to start out, this guy's good. He is 19 years old. And he scored 41 points in 47 games. As a 19-year-old in the KHL, that's pretty damn good, to be honest. These are grown men. A lot of them are ex-NHLers. It's some of the best players in the world that aren't playing in the NHL. So to do that as a 19-year-old, that's pretty impressive. And I know going up to the draft, there's a lot of people that didn't know if he was going to go second or 10th. He was all over the place with mock drafts. He ended up going 7th by the Flyers. I think he could have easily gone second, if not third. I was surprised I think a lot of people were surprised he dropped that far down. But yeah, like I said, he was like the top prospect alongside Bedard for a long time. I don't think he was ever at that status of Bedard that season before, but a couple of seasons before that, I think you could say they were neck and neck. But I would say he was maybe the 2, if not third best prospect going up into that draft. So it was very interesting that his draft stock fell so hard, but there's also reasons to that. He had 3 years left on his contract in the KHL. He had really bad draft interviews. He said he refused draft interviews with Anaheim, Arizona, and Washington, which is crazy. So those combination of those two, his draft stock fell huge. But not only that, I think it's kind of interesting. Montreal Canadiens passed on this guy. I think they're going to be kicking themselves. I think a lot of teams are going to be kicking themselves for passing on this guy because, if they knew he was going to be playing in the NHL a year after, not 3 years after, I think people would have totally snatched him up. And Montreal passed on him for someone that, is barely putting up any points. To be fair, he's a defensive defenseman. But he is playing in the Swiss League, putting up almost no points. He did look pretty good in the AHL. David Reinbacher did. But this news headline, this raises so many damn questions for me. Just because there's a lot of controversy revolving around this prospect. But the biggest thing is he's playing in Philadelphia. So one, is he going to be able to fit in with that roster? Is he going to be able to specifically fit in with Tortorella? because I know Torts is a hard coach on especially younger players. So like if he's able to fit in that sort of roster style, which who knows, the KHL is hard coaching, it's a hard-nosed league. There's very well a good chance he does, but also, I mean, he has personality issues that a lot of teams passed on him. So that also might not be a good fit for the Flyers. But I mean, is he going to be the next Russian superstar is my question, because putting up 41 points in 47 games. I mean, if you look back at players like Kaprizov or even Ovechkin or Malkin, they weren't putting up those sort of points, their draft year, basically. And I think this guy's kind of in a tough situation, especially just with all the geopolitics going around Russia right now. Like, and not only that, I mean, his international play has been held back a lot because of, Russia's ban. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Mitchkov. But I mean, I'm going to go into the next couple questions, but I mean, what do you think about this whole situation?
Yeah. I mean, I think back up a little bit with Mitchkov. I mean, even at the draft, I think he dropped so low, like you said, because a lot of those interviews, I think he botched. I think he wanted to play for Philly. Why? I don't particularly know. I don't have an insider opinion on that. Because I'm not an insider, but I think honestly, like for a lot of those teams etched in before when he got picked, I think they're kind of in a spot where they just really don't want to take that chance. And who knows if he would have, if he does end up coming to the NHL next year and teams kick themselves. I don't know that you really should yet, because who knows, like maybe if it was the Sharks who picked him 4, he probably wouldn't want to come around next year. Maybe, Macklin Celebrini now, maybe he would. But theoretically, like in the long term, when you're picking it on draft day, the Sharks didn't know that they're going to get Macklin Celebrini or that he was going to stay number 1 back on draft day. So they don't know. But it's tough with players like that coming from Russia, especially who have to finish out their contract. And especially if he's lying to teams, or maybe not lying, but just not telling them the full truth that he could be back. He could have a waive in his contract or whatever, but I don't know. I think it's tough. I feel like he could be labeled as a steal, just like Kirill Kaprizov was. But Kirill dropped down really far.
Like the 4th or 5th round. Yeah. I don't think he's that much of a steal, but I mean, just for him being one of, in a lot of mock drafts being picked in the top 5, if not the top 3, and especially just being like for most of his pre-draft time, he was ranked number 2 or number 3 prospect out there. And for him to drop all the way to 7, I think the Flyers are probably going to get a steal from him. I do think that he's going to be able to translate his skill in the NHL. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily next year. I see him making the opening night roster, just seeing how Philly's roster and kind of what their depth is like right now. Also, I mean, it's going to kind of depend with Tortorella. Like if Tortorella doesn't like this guy, this could be a bad situation for Philadelphia. I mean, like I said, this could be a steal for Philadelphia, or this could be an oh shit moment.
Yeah, no, it very well could. Yeah. What were your other questions?
I mean, I was just wondering, does he even have a shot at the Calder next year? I think this is a very dark horse pick for me, but like, I think if he has if he makes the opening night roster, and if he has a strong start of the year, I think he's a very, very good chance that he could be in the discussion for the Calder. I don't think it's a lock or anything that he's going to win it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, right now, maybe it's kind of hard to say who it's going to be. I mean, it could be Celebrini, it could be Gauthier, it could be fucking Mitchkov. I mean, it could be Will Smith. I mean, it's so up in the air right now of who exactly it will be. But I mean, I'm just curious because, I'd say like every 5 years or so, there's a Russian superstar. I mean, it was like Ovechkin, and then it was Panarin, and then it was Kaprizov. And then now, I mean, who's going to fill his shoes? Is it Demidov? I think might be butchering his name.
Yeah.
Could be him.
Yeah.
But it could also be Mitchkov. And I feel like he's flying under a lot of people's radars just because of like all the shit he stirred up at the draft. So it's very interesting to me if he's going to be that next Russian superstar that comes out of the motherland.
I think the motherland. It's tough to say. Like obviously this last year's Calder was pretty clear cut that it was going to be Bedard, just with, all the just his level of like play against everyone else. But like you said, he's pretty close to Bedard in terms of draft stock. I feel like Bedard was a lock at number 1 just because of who he is and all his stuff. Now, I don't know. Honestly, Calder next year is very up in the air because you have people like Macklin Celebrini, potentially Will Smith, potentially Cutter Gauthier will be playing next year. And Gautier's on, a good roster. Macklin Celebrini with the Sharks. I mean, he could be he could be the number 1 point producer on the team. But honestly, I don't even know if I can give you, we can't give an answer. It's so tough. And I feel like this rookie class next year. Yeah. This rookie class next year is going to be very, very excited to watch, and still like some of the potential 2, 3, and 4 picks of this upcoming draft. So we'll kind of have to look at it more then and see who makes the rosters, but he's definitely on there. And if you can put money on it, I'd throw a little cheddar on that because there could be potential there. And I don't know what the odds are for that right now on all the betting platforms, crazy. But yeah. So do it now, lock it in. But do you have anything else before we move on?
No, I think he's going to be a good player in the NHL, though. I feel like he should be able to translate his skills to the NHL. He is a fucking sniper. I mean, he has a shot that really reminds me of McDavid. Dude, I was watching some of his highlights today. He's a very similar to like Svechnikov, Andrei Svechnikov. He loves the Michigan goals, which is like, you doing that in the KHL is pretty damn impressive. To be doing it in any league is
and ballsy.
Yeah, and ballsy. But like he does it a certain way that's like fucking quicker than I've ever seen anyone else do it. Like almost as quick as like Zegras and Shifty like that. So I am really stoked to watch Mitchkov in the NHL, and I think that he's going to be a good player. So mark my words. I said it here first.
Yeah. I think he'll be fun to watch. And I remember watching his highlights back in last year before the draft because I wasn't sure if the Sharks were going to take him or not. So I was like, what's this kid about? But yeah, we'll see next year. I hope he does play next year. I think it'll be fun to watch and follow him along and see how he does. But on to the next piece, the Leafs, Maple Leafs. You guys hired a new coach weeks after firing Sheldon Keefe. He had that pretty funny goodbye message on like the ocean, which was hilarious. Just like, not my problem anymore, which, I mean, I don't think Sheldon Keefe was a horrible coach. I think the Leafs are, again, we've said this before, we could make a whole episode about this, so I'll keep it short, but the Leafs hired potentially their next head coach to take them to the Stanley Cup, Craig Berube. He was an interim head coach for the St. Louis Blues in 2019, the ones that won the Stanley Cup. After that, he was named a finalist for the Jack Adams Award, and the Blues dropped that interim title, and he became the 26th head coach of the St. Louis Blues. But that was 2019. December of 2023, this last season, about the halfway point, the Blues fired him because the season that they've been having didn't make the playoffs this year, obviously. They had a 4-game losing streak, and they dropped him. But that raises the question to me that, Sheldon Keefe, who came over, he was with the Toronto Mariners, or however you say their name.
Marlies, I think.
Marlies, yeah. He was a head coach for them, and I think he won in the AHL. He won the championship, but, he didn't really have that winning. Craig Berube has a title under his belt, but there's some questions there because, I mean, he took over for a team that won, that 1 year, and then after that, the Blues didn't do a whole lot. They didn't have a whole lot of playoff success after that 1 year. So it's tough to say that, he's a winning coach. Did he just ride the coattails? What is it? But I don't know. Do you think this is the coach that the Leafs need? And if they're going to keep all the pieces together, I don't know.
This is an interesting question. I do think this is a good hire for the Leafs. I think Berube's got a different style than Sheldon Keefe. I think also Sheldon Keefe's first NHL job was with this stacked roster with insane expectations, especially with the fan base behind him.
Oh yeah.
Not like the St. Louis Blues have a fan base or that big of expectations, but previously back when the Blues were kind of in their heyday, I mean, decent. I'd say it was a decent amount of pressure and I mean, they had a pretty star-studded roster back then. So, I mean, he did have that. Two different markets completely, but I do think having that NHL experience is going to be really nice for the Leafs. But, I mean, Craig Berube, he used to be an old school tough player, a fucking pest, to be honest. So, I mean, I think he's going to bring that grit to the team that they need sort of in the coaching style. I think that there's going to be some moving parts because of this, though. I do think some of that core four, I think there's going to be at least one of them that's fired up and pissed off. And if I were to guess right now, I'd say probably Marner. I think Marner's out of there probably this offseason. I've been seeing a lot of stuff of him going to the Predators. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but that could be a good thing for Berube to have some new blood in Toronto, and I think for the team overall, that could be a very good piece. Because, I mean, Marner's going to get a fucking haul wherever you send him. Or, I mean, Marner, Matthews, which I don't think they're going to move Matthews, or Nylander, which I don't really see them moving, or Tavares even. Like, Marner's really the only one. They're going to get a big return back on that. So I do think this is it's a good call from the Leafs. I think it's a good step forward from Sheldon Keefe, though.
Yeah.
That's my take on that, though.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, I think it's a great hire for them. They needed it. I don't know that I don't know what the options were out there for them that they could have made. But yeah, like you said, I think some new blood. Keefe took over around 2019, so when he was winning a Stanley Cup. And the Leafs have just always been this great team in the regular season and just falling apart in the playoffs. So I don't know. I mean, after this year, if they do the same thing, you cannot point fingers at the coach. I don't know. You can't. Like, at that point, it's got to be on the players that are surrounded that and so much more. I mean, it's tough to point fingers at players because, Marner didn't have a bad season. He played okay in the playoffs. He didn't, he wasn't a catalyst, but neither was any of the Leafs players. None of them were like huge factors in the playoffs. So it's tough, but I get it. You kind of got to point fingers at the coach first. And then I think after this season, it's like, if these players can't get it together, blow it up, nuke it, get rid of them. Something.
I think by a halfway point this season.
Yeah.
I think if they're, I mean, it's hard to say, though. I can see the Leafs having a great regular season next year and potentially get it out first or second round. So, I mean, that's just how the Leafs are. But I think this could be a good shakeup, at least. I don't think it's like that big of an addition, but I think it's going to be a good shakeup for the Leafs. And I mean, shit, man. Even with all this playoffs and stuff going on, that barely caught my attention. I was kind of like, the Leafs are said and done right now.
Yeah, they're off in Cancun.
Enough about them. So
Which, speaking of Cancun, did you see the video today that I forget who posted it, but it was, I don't remember. I think it was the Bruins on the jet to wherever they were going, but they were like betting on something. I don't know. I'm not gonna bring it up because I don't know if it's actually the Bruins or not, but I want to get hate again. But we're gonna move into the series review from the past round that just finished. We're going to start off with New York and Carolina. New York wins it 4-2. We kind of thought that they were going to close out that game 4 and get the sweep off, but Carolina put up a fight.
Yeah.
And like I said last episode, I do kind of feel bad for him just in the sense of, but also I can't keep feeling bad for these teams because they had a lead in game 6, right? They had what?
Yeah.
Like
they were 3-1 going into the third, and then Chris Kreider scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
4 unanswered goals. So it's like that's tough for them, especially at home, for that to happen. I remember watching that game, and I was just like, holy shit, what's going on? I thought Carolina was going to win it. I thought it was going to be game 7, no doubt. And I feel like Carolina had the momentum. If they would have won that game 6, I think game 7 could have possibly gone the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
in the Garden, though, ooh, it'd be tough.
I know.
But you never know.
Yeah. So. They picked up some steam. I mean, momentum going throughout this series, though. I mean, I feel like it's game 3. We were kind of thinking that they were going to get swept. I think that was maybe the night we had a podcast that we were like, they're going to get swept, or it's maybe going to go to game 5. But they did put in a really good effort games 4 and 5. I was like, okay, they're starting to come back together, but there was just some flaws with the Canes. I think the biggest thing was like they couldn't get offense. I mean, their biggest point producer from the series before scored two goals. That's it. 2 points, no assists. Yeah. So I mean, you need to get more out of your best players. But not only that, they went 2 for 21 on the power play, which when you get 21 power plays against a team that's very good defensively, like you need to capitalize. That just shows how strong New York's defense is, though. I mean, Shesterkin played lights out. I think he outplayed Anderson every single game, even game 4 and 5. But I mean, I think those were 2 very deciding factors. But I did see a stat too. Like, I mean, the Canes led 6 times throughout the series, and they lost 5 of them. So I mean, there's just holes in this team in terms of defense and just being able to hold that lead. I mean, I don't really know who to put the blame on. I feel like it's just they ran into the Rangers, who are kind of a juggernaut in the playoffs right now. So just tough luck for the Canes this year, though. I feel like if anything, maybe it's goaltending. I mean, I think Frederik Andersen's a great goalie, and I also think Brind'Amour is a good coach. But I mean, what do you think the reason why the Canes got knocked out?
I mean, to put it simply, I mean, I think the Rangers were just lights out. They were the better team. Looking at all their points and like team leaders for points, I mean, Chris Kreider had 7 points, Panarin 8, Vincent Trocheck 8 points, Mika Zibanejad had 7 points, Lafreniere 6 points. Like this team is, it's very deep, and we've kind of talked about Lafreniere and how he could be a bust or not, but regardless, that team is so deep, so it's hard to really say much. But I think simply it's just the Rangers were better. Carolina, they have a good team, but like you said, I think some of the key players just couldn't perform. It's not that they didn't perform. I just don't think they couldn't against a goalie like Shesterkin, and all that. So I don't feel bad for the Hurricanes because they had a chance game 6 and they just Chris Kreider, the freaking pita bread from Sausage Party, scored a natural hat trick on you guys. So it's like, I don't know. Can't feel too bad. But who is your series MVP?
I'd probably say Chris Kreider. I think just for him to single-handedly basically win the series for them, I wouldn't say in the last game, but I mean, you have momentum against you at Carolina too, like away, and to score a hat trick in the third period, 5 goals, 2 assists in this series too. I mean, that's some very stellar numbers. I know 3 of those goals came in the last game, but I mean, just to close that out, it was hard for me to either give it to him or Shesterkin. I know Shesterkin played on his head, and to play like that against a very good offensive team that Carolina is, it's pretty impressive. But yeah, I'd say it's Chris Kreider. I just think it's just because he sealed off that series, and there's not a lot of players in the NHL that have that kind of clutch gene. I think Chris Kreider is very underrated in that style. I feel like there's been a lot of overtime goals he's scored in the playoffs. But not only that, I mean, he just steps up when it's needed. I mean, he's an older player. He's been with the freaking Rangers since who knows when. But I mean, not who knows when. I mean, probably like 2011, 2012, something like that. I mean, he's been on the Rangers forever. So for him to step up and just seal off that series, he's getting the MVP. But who's your pick?
Yeah, so I actually went the opposite in how you normally do this with an MVP. You give it to the winner. I want to give it to Sebastian Aho because he played really well. 6 games played, 2 goals, 7 assists. I mean, he was one of the driving factors on that team, and it sucks that he kind of, he's my series MVP because I do, I want him to get that recognition, even though the rest of his team may have not played up to that standard. And with the Rangers, like you said, it's hard to give it to one person. Yeah. The whole team played amazing. I mean, like
same
you said,
with
Chris
Panarin
Kreider.
Too.
Panarin played great. Yeah.
Give it to Panarin, yeah.
So many players played amazing on the Rangers. But Aho, I think he had a good good series, but it just wasn't enough, which is a sad truth.
Yeah.
But for the
who's
ghost,
your series ghost? Yeah.
My ghost, honestly, Seth Jarvis as well.
Yeah,
those 2 goals.
I already mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off of I think he had 4 goals and 3 assists in like 5 games, and then, I mean, shit, dropping down to that to 2 goals. One, that says how good Shesterkin is to stop.
Yeah.
Probably one of their best goal scorers on their team, at least in the playoffs. I don't know if I could say this for, historically or in the regular season, but I mean, coming from that series and then shutting him down completely, that's tough for Carolina. But yeah, just proves the point that New York's fucking great at defense this year. So
they are. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the next series, and that is Florida and Boston. So get your popcorn ready. Boston, Florida wins it 4-2, game 6, dying seconds of the game. Boston took the lead, and then Florida tied it up. And last minute of the game, I want to say, they score, finish it out. I mean, the controversy in this series is insane.
Big time.
Marchand being injured from Bennett's little sucker punch, refs favoring the Panthers. Where, I don't know, I did feel kind of bad just on some of those calls, but they made it up in Toronto with another call. Bobrovsky got his stick kind of hit from, people are saying he dropped it, whatever. It was goaltender interference based off what you're saying happened with Bennett. And I think you could have called that, they could have called that back, but you know what? They didn't. And they're trying to stay consistent in terms of what they're calling goaltender interference or not. And you could complain about this series as a whole, but I think the playoffs in general has had very questionable officiating, not very consistent. So yeah, as a Boston fan, you're going to want to point to the refs, but like I said last episode, I think the Panthers just played better. Yeah, they were 1 for 16 in power plays and weren't even close to Florida in shots.
Yeah, 100%. I just feel like we got destroyed in the comment section when last takes, which is funny. And going back to the point, we're just having a good time on here.
Yeah, we're poking fun too.
I know Boston fans are very serious about their sports, so I love the passion in you guys. But I just feel like all in all, Boston got outplayed. Florida was the better team. I feel like losing Marchand, that's gonna. I mean, I feel like without Marchand, they probably, who knows if they would have made it past the Leafs last series, because he was stellar. So losing him was tough. But I mean, shit, Boston lost all 3 games at home. When you're going to do that, you're majority of the time you're going to lose the series. Probably like 90, I don't know the stat, 99% of the time, you probably are going to lose that series if you lose all 3 games at home.
Yeah.
Like you said, I know in the last podcast, what you said with the shots. I mean, that was another big thing. If you're going to get outshot every single game and then go 1 for 16 on the power plays, I just think it's classic Boston fan fashion to be pointing fingers at other people besides their own team. Which I will say, some Boston fans did say this just wasn't the team, wasn't the year. But some of them are like, it's the officiating, blah blah blah. You guys fucking suck. So it was funny to see all that, but. Man, Florida's looking dangerous. This Eastern Conference final is gonna be fucking good.
I'm so excited. We'll talk about it, but yeah, I'm very excited about it. I mean, Bruins fans, we're just poking fun at you mainly because of how serious you guys do take it and how sensitive I feel like a lot of Boston fans are. Like you said in that video, though, there were some level-headed people that were like, we got outplayed. It just wasn't our year. It's a bridge year. I think you guys will be good for the future. You've got a great goalie in net who saved your ass from getting swept. But yeah.
And I mean, one thing that I kind of looked into today too is, holy shit, this team in the past 5 years for Florida has really lifted this team from a poverty franchise that barely makes the playoffs at all to a legitimate contender. And you could say, is this the Matthew Tkachuk effect? Is this Barkov and Reinhart and all the pieces, Bobrovsky, all of them coming together? Which, I will give credit to Bill Zito. I mean, it's incredible that he was able to put this team together, because I mean, this is a star-studded roster, especially even Sam Bennett. I mean, when he was with the Flames, he was a good player, but he was not as special as he is when he's with Florida. So I mean, this is
Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Vladimir Tarasenko, who they added this season.
Yeah, 100%.
On top of the good team they had last year.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me. Like, I think the Panthers became a team in like the 1995-96 season. I want to say that was their first year. So from 2000 until 2019, they only had 2 playoff appearances. So they went 19 years with 2 playoff appearances.
Yeah.
I think before that, I mean, since their beginning, I think they only had 1 or 2 in the 90s too. So, I mean, since their beginning until 2019, they only had like 3 or 4 times that they made the playoffs. So, I mean, I don't blame the fans for having really low attendance until then. I mean, their team sucked. It was honestly like, I mean, it was not going to lie. Like when I was following hockey back then, when they were not a good team, I was like, dude, Panthers could fold, like, or relocate. Like they are really low attendance. They're not a successful team. They were very bottom of the barrel team, like most of the year in the most years in the standings. So it's pretty incredible that, you know, one, they've made 5 playoff appearances in the past 5 years. They made a Stanley Cup final last year, which I think was their first time in their history. They also led the league in attendance this year with Chicago, which I think is pretty damn incredible. I mean, going from one of the lowest attended teams to this, I mean, you're putting an actual product on ice. So, I mean, props to Bill Zito. This is a really fun team to watch. They're pissing off original 6 fan bases constantly. So it's pretty crazy. And, you know, I think it's safe to say that hockey's going to stay in South Florida. So,
yeah, I think so too. I think this team has really come together, and I feel like it's all these players, these good players on this team, outside of maybe Tarasenko, are in their primes. Like Matthew Tkachuk, Reinhart, Barkov, Brandon Montour is amazing. Who else am I missing? Sam Bennett. Like they're all players that are in their prime, like the greatest time to be playing this series, and they're all on a team together, and they all play together so well. Watching them play Boston was like a jazz quartet, just watching them out there making passes, doing all this stuff. So I thought it's a fun team to watch. That's why I've been kind of rooting for them the last 2 years in the playoffs. Also because the Sharks aren't making the playoffs anytime soon. So it's fun to watch them, and it's a treat to watch them every time. But who's your series MVP for this series?
Yeah, we'll wrap this up. I know we've been taking a bit on this series, but I'd say Barkov. I mean, just having 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists.
Yeah.
Especially in just low scoring games, compared to what the Panthers are used to. I know the Bruins are usually, you know, they're one of the teams in the Atlantic that is in a lot of these low scoring games, but for him to perform like that, he really stepped up, and that's probably my MVP for this series. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go again against the normal, and I'm going to give it to Swayman because I think he played lights out, and he's a great goaltender. He's frustrating to watch when you're rooting for a team that is trying to beat the Bruins. He is frustrating as hell because he plays so good, night in, night out. You know, some of those games, I think his goal against average was like 2.3 something, which isn't incredibly high given the fact that Florida scored like 6 goals the first, or game 2 and game 3. But even those games where it was high scoring for the Panthers, I don't want to say, I'm not going to point fingers at Swayman. I think it's just Boston's team as a whole. But he played lights out for them. Like I said, he's the reason that they were still in that series for so long. And potentially could have gone to game 7. I mean, like we said, a 1-goal game could have gone the other way, but Panthers just better. Like I said in the beginning, they're a better team. And like you said, I'm very excited for this next round versus the Rangers. I'm kind of nervous for this one as a bandwagon Panthers fan in the playoffs. But before we get into that, who's your ghost of the series?
I'd say David Pastrnak. I mean, he only had 1 goal in 6 games. I mean, the previous series, he had 3 goals, which I don't think was anything crazy for a 7-game series from him, but he is one of their best, probably their best goal scorer. I think he scored 50 goals this year. So, you know, he's a motherfucking solid player, and he didn't step up for them. So I'd probably give him the ghost, especially in a tight series like this. Like you gotta have performance from your best players. Florida definitely got it. So it's a bummer that Boston didn't get it. So who's yours though?
I have to give it to Charlie McAvoy. I feel like he is a big catalyst on defense for them. He was a -4 in those 6 games. On the ice a lot, probably because it was a lot of power play goals and he's on the penalty kill, but he only had 1 goal, 1 assist. I don't think he played like horrible. I had to give it to him as a ghost. I didn't want to go with Pastrnak as well as you. But I feel like there could have been just a little bit more out of him in terms of just defensively. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't just point it at McAvoy. Maybe it's just the defense as a whole, because that's what seems like the theme is here. It's like, it's hard to say it's any one player. I feel like just as a team, Panthers were better. That's my only explanation I can really think of in this analysis we're doing. They just got outplayed, but I feel like the players that needed to step up, like Pastrnak and McAvoy, just couldn't do it. But you know what? There's always next year, Florida. Have fun in Cancun. Or fuck. Have fun next year, Boston. Have fun in God damn. Dude, I can't even talk. Cancun, yeah. No, for real though. Bruins, you guys have fun in Cancun. Wish I was there. I'm not. I'm stuck in Boise, Idaho, working a job. So you guys have fun. We're shitting on you, but you know what? You guys are making more money than I've ever seen in my life. So have fun with that. But moving on to the next series, since we touched on that series a lot, but it was the most controversial, so we kind of had to. Yeah, Dallas definitely. And Colorado. Dallas wins it in 6 in double overtime. Matt Duchene against his former team, which is, that's another just piece of beauty in hockey of just, kind of full circle effect where you score on your former team that drafted you to continue on in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously, he had a great career with Colorado, but he's having success in Dallas. But what do you think of this series in terms of the matchup?
I thought this was a good series. The biggest thing that stood out to me, I think Colorado just got dominated by Dallas. This series showed that Dallas is legit. Because it was kind of was up in the air of who was going to win this series. I think it could have gone either way. But this showed that Dallas is just a very deep team one. Yeah. But to be beating a team like Colorado, they're a solid team too. So yeah. I think that Dallas showed that they're strong one at in away games. I think they're able to close out a series as well. Because it's pretty incredible. They Colorado went winless at home. They went 0-3 at home at the Ball Arena, which you're gonna, like I said, this happened with the damn Bruins. And when you're gonna lose every single game at home, you're gonna lose. So yeah, that's
you
tough
have to
for
take
them,
that advantage.
Yeah, definitely. So when you don't even one game, and Colorado couldn't even hold a lead until game 5. So it just showed that Dallas is able to, play with the lead. They're able to play hard-nosed hockey against a very offensive team like Colorado is. But not only that, I think Colorado just kind of had a big blow when they lost to Nichushkin. He had 9 goals in 8 games at that point, which, losing that was really tough for, I think, their offense. But like I said, Dallas was just all around firing on all cylinders. Robertson 7 assists, Sagan had 5 points, Rupe Hintz had 5 points, Wyatt Johnson had 3 goals in this series alone. So not only that, Ottinger was a great player, great goalie in all of these games too. I think he outplayed Georgiev. So I just think Dallas is. I don't know if Dallas is gonna get beat by Vancouver or Edmonton. That's my thing. I feel like they are the team to make the finals. I also think Chris Tanev played lights out. He was one of their best players on the ice anytime he was on there. He's a great player with the Flames. He is one of the most underrated defensemen in the whole league. He doesn't score a lot of points, but holy shit, when he's out there, I feel like it is hard to get past him. Yeah. Shot blocks, hitting, everything. He's a gritty player. So what do you think about this series though?
Yeah, I thought that overtime game was a lot of fun. very late. I think it finished our time at like, I want to say like 12, which back east is like 2 a.m. So if you guys are watching that out east, cheers to you for sticking through, and you're a serious fan. Out west, we don't really have to suffer from that other than that, like those long games. But yeah, I thought this series was definitely a fun one to watch. And I honestly, the Stars, I think they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final. I have them in my bracket. Also, if Edmonton wins tonight, my Eastern Conference final is perfect. Not the second round, but my Eastern Conference final is still set. So could be at the top. I haven't really checked the leaderboard in our bracket challenge. But
your Eastern Conference or Western Conference, are you saying, if Edmonton wins tonight?
Both of them. If Edmonton, I have Edmonton and Stars versus Panthers and Rangers.
That's crazy.
Conference final. So, yeah, I think for Dallas, they've had a tough road. They just played the defending Stanley Cup champions, and then they played the 2022 Stanley Cup champions, who, they're not super bare bones from that team that they had in 2022. Obviously, they've lost a couple of players here and there, but they're still a great team, and they have the second best player in the league, Nathan MacKinnon. And he's a great player to play with, and he can make you look like Connor McDavid out there, just like Connor McDavid does to Zach Hyman. So, I think overall, Dallas is going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean,
they look lights out, man.
Yeah, they do. And it's tough. It's Monday, so we don't know who they're playing in the next series yet. And man, I think it's going to be a good series, though. Both these Eastern Conference Finals are going to be very good to watch. So, I don't have an MVP, but I do have a ghost. So, who's your MVP? And then,
I think my MVP was Miro Heiskanen. I think he was the best player in this series by a mile. I mean, scoring 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists, as a defenseman, in a 6-game series. That's incredible. Not only that, I mean, he was on ice, time on ice average as 28-42. Like, holy shit. Yeah. He's out for half the game. Yeah. I didn't even see what Chris Tandem's was. It was probably up there too, at least plus 20. But man, Miro Heiskanen, what a freaking series.
Yeah, I do have an MVP actually.
I think he was my MVP. Who's your MVP though?
Wyatt Johnson. I think he had some good couple clutch goals. He's fun to watch too.
Yeah. 21 years old. I think he turned 21 in the series. So that's cool.
He's younger than we are, and which is just crazy. But yeah, he was honestly a big part of their success, especially in the clutch moments. That's where you need to be. That's where you need to shine in the playoffs. You can play all you want the rest of the series, but if you can't close out, you can't win the Stanley Cup, which is why it makes the Stanley Cup the hardest trophy to win in sports. All of them. It's the hardest one. You can sue me on that. But I think we have the same ghost for this series. I think, let's say it on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Cale Makar.
Yep.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, getting held pointless for 3 games straight, I mean, you're the second best, if not the best. I mean, I'd say second best. I don't know if I'd say he's better than MacKinnon. Sometimes he is. But, I mean, getting held pointless for 3 games straight, it just goes to tell, like, in the playoffs, and especially in this past round, when your best players don't show up, like, you're not going to succeed. All of the best players that have shown up, their teams have advanced. So that just goes to show that, your best players can't take a night off. They need to perform in the playoffs. Yep. That's the story of the Calgary Flames too. I mean, don't even get me fucking started about how Calgary Flames best players would not show up during the playoffs. So
no, Sharks fans, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dallas won was fair and square. I'd say they basically dominated Colorado, but
yeah. I think, I mean, obviously I love the Panthers to go on. I would not be upset to see the Dallas Stars win it all though. I love Joe Pavelski. I have his jersey signed by him, and I'm excited. We'll see. I'm rooting for them to go to the finals, not just because of my bracket, but also deep down I want Pavelski to lift that cup over his head. And Tanev too. Wait, is Tanev on the Stars? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
it'd be sick to see Chris Tanev too. I'd be stoked for him.
Yeah. But with that, we're going to move on to the next one. Vancouver and Edmonton. As of right now, while we're recording, game has not started yet. I think it's about too soon, but you guys know at home how the series went. But regardless of how this series ends, I thought this was a great series as well.
Yeah.
Back to back. Like what? No team has won 2 games in a row, right?
Yeah. And no team really has. I feel like this series has been so crazy. I feel like one team gets a momentum, then the next team just comes in and swoops it away. And I think this is relatively low scoring for Edmonton too. All of these games have been, so it's kind of not their style of play, but they're able to adapt. What's crazy to me is like, no team has won two straight games, which is, I mean, no one's really taken too much momentum. I feel like I've been watching these games and I'm like, okay, Vancouver is looking better, or Edmonton is going to take this, but then the other team comes in and takes the dub the next game. But just going to this game 7, we'll see if it was this big of a difference. But I think losing Brock Besser is such a big blow. I mean, he's tied in their points lead for Vancouver. He's out because of a blood clot. That's a huge loss for Vancouver. So
and
it's
not life-threatening, which is good. Good.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects, just the outcome of the series. If Vancouver is able to pull this together and beat Edmonton, damn. I mean, they're underdogs at home, which is crazy. They don't have, I mean, I don't know. Both the goalies playing right now there's not really a favorite, I'd say. Silovs has definitely stepped up in some of these games, but also, I mean, same with Skinner. So I also want to say I was wrong about Edmonton. I know I'm a Calgary Flames fan, and I love talking shit any chance I can about Edmonton. But, I mean, holy shit. Draisaitl and McDavid are on a fucking tear, man. I mean, McDavid has 21 points. Draisaitl has 23 points. We're only in the second round. I mean, if Edmonton were to make the Stanley Cup, both these players are going to be close to 50 fucking points.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
They were. Wait, I'm gonna look up Stanley Cup. I want to see. Do you know how many points the player had, or like Jack Eichel and Marchessault had
Jack
last
Eichel
year?
had like 26 points, maybe. So, like, just seeing this offense coming out of Draisaitl and McDavid, holy shit. Also, we have been doing some fan-made parlays on this series, and the last one did not do good whatsoever. I know the one before it, holy shit, we were close to plus 2,100 4-leg parlay.
Yeah, it was so close. Okay, Jack Eichel in the 2023 playoffs hit 26 points.
Yeah.
And McDavid's at 21, Draisaitl at 23. Which, knowing McDavid and Draisaitl, if this is a high-scoring game, they could break that right now in the second round.
Definitely.
So and I think even last year, they got knocked out second round last year as well, and McDavid was at 20 points. So, yeah, those guys are insane. And I think this series in general is going to be, it's going to be a dogfight. This last game, you guys know the outcome. Vancouver also, last time there was a game 7, the city of Vancouver damn near burnt down. So I'm hoping for the safety of everyone, that doesn't happen again. And I think they're prepared this time. I don't know if they were prepared last time. But,
what's your prediction on this game 7 though?
As much as I don't really care for either of these teams, I know you have a vendetta against the Oilers. As a Sharks fan, we've kind of have a vendetta against the Vancouver Canucks. It's been a while, but I'm going to go with the Oilers. I want to see, this is a me want, not a me think. Me want. God, I sound like a kid. I want McDavid and Draisaitl I want to see how many points they could get first off if they go to the third round. So I want to keep them going. So I want them going to the third round. Vancouver's such a good team though. But I do think Dallas has an easier chance of getting past Edmonton than they do Vancouver. So I want to rock with Edmonton. What do you think?
I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think this is going to be, I feel like most of the games this series have been under 6.5, under 6 goals, if not pushing. But I do think that this is going to be, this is going to hit the over. I think this is going to be kind of a shootout. I do think Edmonton's going to come out of the gates flying. But I don't think Vancouver's going to let down. I think they're going to give it their all. They're facing some tough adversity, losing one of their best players to all of a sudden crazy news coming out day Game 7. So, yeah, man, it's going to be crazy, but I could see this going to overtime. It's going to go either way, though. I'm calling it right now. This game's going to go to overtime. It's either going to – I don't really know who to say. As a Flames fan, I'm going to say Vancouver. Even though Flames – I know someone called me out on it. Why are you going for Vancouver if you're a Flames fan? I don't like Vancouver either.
Why would you go for Edmonton,
I don't like the Oilers at all. Yeah. I'm going to go for Vancouver all day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough toss-up. I mean, if the Knights and the Kings were playing, honestly, I feel like I would want a meteor to hit the earth before one of them to win. I don't know. I can't think of.
I'm saying 5-4 Canucks in overtime. Okay.
I'm gonna say 6-5 Oilers in regulation.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll go to overtime. I would love to if this goes to Game 7 overtime. I'm praying that does happen. So you guys, listeners, let us know how it was because you guys are listening to us in the past right now. But before we go into the preview for next round, we're going to get some fan questions sent in by the followers and listeners on our Hockey Podcast Instagram, Good Old Hockey Podcast, right below Galli again. Going to plug it. Go follow us so you can submit your questions and be heard. First one from TWizzle12. He says, will Ovechkin hit 41 goals in 61 games to tie Gretzky's record for goals within the same games played? Galli, what do you think?
No. I just, I mean, 61 games. I mean, this means he's going to have to hit 41 goals in 61 games, which, I mean, seeing Ovechkin this season, maybe if he played like he did the second half of the season, he has a shot. But I just feel like age is starting to creep up on Ovechkin. I do think he's going to break Gretzky's record. I know that I previously said that he's going to next season, but within 61 games, I could see him doing it in 82. If he plays all 82, I could see him maybe hitting 41, 42 goals.
Yeah.
But within 61 games, that's asking McDavid or Matthews numbers out of a 30 fucking 8-year-old. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm saying no on this. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that no as well. If this was a couple years ago, I'd say 100% yes, but it's not. I think still to be within 41 goals in 61 games to tie Gretzky's record within those same games played is fantastic. I think Ovechkin also had the bad luck of the lockout, which probably would have gotten him past the record by now. So I've said it before. I think Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Love you, Gretz, but Ovechkin has just proven Gretzky's the greatest player of all time by far. But turns to putting the puck in the net himself, goes to Ovechkin, but I don't think he's going to hit those 41 goals in 61 games. Like you said, that would be, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but like how quick did Matthews hit 50 goals? I want to say it was around like 60 games played. So
yeah. I mean, he's
9 goals off of Matthews.
He's going to have to win the fucking Rocket Richard next year if he does this, which would be fucking crazy. If Ovechkin hits 41 goals in 61 games, I'll buy a Ovechkin jersey. Straight up.
Same.
I mean, that would be insane for that old of a player to do that and how fast the league is now. Holy shit. So,
and you know what?
It's a good question, though.
It is a great question. Honestly, this is, amazing question. I mean, I want him to do it. First off, if that happened, I'd go crazy. Even the beginning of the season, like he's going to be hunting for it. And you know that the Capitals are going to be feeding him the puck. They want him to hit that next year. They don't want to make him wait another year. I think he's going to do it as long as he stays healthy. But if he hits 41 goals in 61 games, I'd be right along with you. I'd buy a jersey. So TWizzle12, thank you for the question. That was a great question. Hope to hear from you again because that's a tough question. But what do you guys think in the comments? Let us know what you guys think in terms of, if that's possible for Ovechkin or not. Next question is from Dan the Man at End Zone, or DZig42. He said, honest opinion on who should win the Hart Memorial Trophy this year. This one's tough. I think there's a lot of players that could get that, but who's your vote?
This is tough. I'm gonna have to say, and I know Dan the man's gonna love this, Nathan MacKinnon all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was only 4 points behind Kucherov, which I know Kucherov was like, I think the next nearest point getter on his team was like 90 something points, which is pretty damn impressive. But like, this is the season. Like, I think the next biggest or most points MacKinnon has had was 111 points. So for him to score this 140 point season, this might be the most points MacKinnon has in all of his career. So I just feel like voters are going to be leaning his direction. My guess in my pick, I'd give it to MacKinnon. I mean, scoring that 51 goals and I mean, almost 90 assists, 140 points. I mean, that's incredible to do. I mean, he got more points than McDavid. And with Kucherov, I mean, damn, it's hard not to give it to Kucherov just because he had an insane year too. I mean, 44 goals and 100 assists is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just, that's nothing like little at all.
Yeah.
Kucherov also blew his previous career high out of the water and also the Lightning franchise record. So yeah, man, I'm just going to have to go with Nathan MacKinnon though, because Kucherov has won the Hart in the past, but that's my pick. What about you? I didn't even mention Matthews either.
Yeah, Matthews, I just don't know. It's tough not.
It's 69 goals. That's the most goals since the 90s, you know?
Yeah, so. No, it is, which is impressive. But I feel like it'd be tough to give it to him with the season Kucherov had with the team around him. Yeah. Matthews has a great team, regardless of if they got knocked out in the first round by the Boston Bruins yet again. But I still think that Kucherov definitely deserves it. I mean, it's kind of an easy pick. He had the most points, but like you said, if you look around, like, I mean, he had 100 assists, and so did McDavid. I mean, this like Hart Trophy race is very, very tight and very stacked. You got McDavid, you could put in there, Matthews, you could put in there, MacKinnon, you could definitely like 100% put in there, and Kucherov is obviously in there.
Yeah.
I think the fifth person is tough. Maybe Panarin, just with the season that the Rangers had. But that team's so stacked, it's hard to give him the MVP. I think Kucherov honestly carried the Lightning into that playoff spot, and sadly he didn't really perform in the playoffs a whole lot in that first round, but they're playing the Panthers and they got their asses kicked. So it's tough to say that it was all his fault. But that's who I would give my Hart Memorial to. But you know, we actually forgot to mention this because I think it just kind of broke, but the NHL Awards is going to be in Vegas the night that we get there. So we're going to be boots on the ground in Vegas for the NHL Awards. Still working out whether we can go into the awards or not. We're not sure yet. But we'll definitely be getting some content, probably, hopefully, meeting some of the players there that did win some trophies. So yeah, but thank you to you two that sent in the questions. Next time we'd like to get some more questions from you guys, so go follow us there. We're going to be posting it on the day of when we record, which is Mondays. So every Monday we'll do this like a mailbag questionnaire thing. We want to get you guys involved in the conversation too and shout you guys out a little bit. So thank you both for sending in questions. And with that, we're going to move into the preview. We're already at an hour now. This is a long episode, but you know what, guys? It's playoff hockey. We only get this, 2 months out of the year? So we're going to make this extra special for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Make it a little bit longer. But conference finals preview. First one. We've got Florida and the Rangers. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin because these two teams are so good. And I mean, I feel like New York's definitely the favorite in this, but Florida is the underdog, has been shown and proven that you can't ever just take them lightly and just put them aside. Yeah. They're going to put up a fight. I don't know that I could give a prediction on this one because it's such a toss up. I need to see a couple games first. I need to see how these two teams play against each other in the playoffs, where everyone's at.
My prediction is going to be very low scoring. I think both of these goalies are going to be playing on their head. It's going to be interesting to see. I think if Florida is able to take a game in New York, I think this series is up in the air. But if New York goes up 2-0 against Florida, it's gonna be tough for the Panthers to come back. But
it'll be tough.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I hate to be devil's advocate. I know you're not going to like this, but I'm going to say the Rangers. That's probably my prediction on this one. I just feel like they have more of a complete team. I just don't know if Florida is going to go back to back, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could really go both ways. I mean, like you said, it's so up in the air. And I also I feel like I agree with you. I'd like to see a game or two before I'm like, I have really a pick, but I'm just going to go off a limb and say New York, though. I think it's possibly their year. Yeah,
I think so too. Everything's kind of lining up to that 94 season that they had. Obviously 20 years now. It's been since they've won the cup. And there's a lot of similarities. I don't know exactly what they are. We can talk about it maybe next episode, but there's a lot of similarities to that year and to this year. So maybe it's just in their cards this year. But I think last point on this, I think for Florida, if they want any sort of chance to beat this team, I mean, it's tough to say it like that because there is a chance, but I think what they need to stick to is their awesome forecheck. They did a great job forechecking against the Bruins. And if they can keep that up with the offensive juggernaut that the Rangers are, I feel like they can kind of limit their production on offense. So, I don't think Florida needs to change much up on the offensive side, but their forecheck and their defense as a whole just needs to be sound. That's the only way they're going to win. And honestly, for the Rangers, same thing. You guys got to I don't know. This is so tough. When I was making my bracket and I picked these two teams, humble brag, I was like, this is going to be a tough series either way. These are two great teams. And you know what? I'm looking forward to it, though. It's great hockey. I thought last year's conference final, Florida swept the Hurricanes, so it really wasn't anything crazy. But I have a feeling this series is going to go to 7.
Yeah, it could definitely go to 7. I'm going to say, this goes to 6 or 7, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But
all right, next one. So since we don't know the winner, we're going to kind of do a 2-parter in terms of who Dallas can beat. I kind of said it earlier, but with Dallas, I think either one of these teams, I think they're going to beat them. No matter who makes it, I agree. My pick is that Dallas is going to go to the Cup final, but I think they'd have an easier path, like I said, with Edmonton. The Stars are a complete team, head to toe, and I don't know that the Oilers necessarily are. I think the Vancouver Canucks have a little bit more of a chance to put up a fight.
I think if the Stars play Edmonton, it's going to be over in 5. Like, I think possibly even 4. I mean, I just feel like Dallas is such a complete team. So, sorry, Oilers fans. I know you guys hate me already. But I don't really see Edmonton beating the Stars. I mean, Vancouver, it's tough to say too, just because they've had injury troubles too. I feel like that's really held them back. I think if they had Besser and Demko, this would be a lot different of a series. But man, I mean, if it's Edmonton, Dallas is going to win. If it's Vancouver, I think Dallas is still going to win. I think Vancouver might put up a little bit better of a fight just because they have more of a complete team. And they have one of the best defensemen in the league. So that could also play a big difference. But Heiskanen and Hughes, I mean, I still think Dallas's D is more deep than Vancouver. So my pick's Dallas my pick's Dallas all the way for both of these teams. So.
Ottinger honestly played great this last series too, and he's looking very scary. And we know about the playoffs, you just need a solid goaltender to take you far. So we'll see. We don't even know. We're gonna get to watching that game 7 though, starting here shortly. I don't know if do you know if it starts at 7 or 8 o'clock our time?
It starts at 7.
Okay, so it's starting right now. So we're going to get the fuck out of here and go watch that game. You guys, thank you for listening today. Like we said in the beginning, we're here to have fun. And I want you guys to take anything that we say super serious. We're here to talk hockey, bullshit, poke fun at other teams, kind of get under their skin a little bit. It's a competitive edge, I guess you could say. When you play the Sharks, how scary they look now. Not really, but yeah, thank you all for listening, and we're excited. Next episode, nothing's for sure yet, so go follow us on Instagram so you can find out. And we're possibly going to be doing it live Tuesday night, just so we can stay on top of all the series, the madness, just how fast the playoff moves. It's tough to get an episode to you guys, edit everything in a day, and get it all to you guys. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, Galli, you have any last remarks or anything before we head out?
No, just reiterating, we're just having fun here. We're just bullshitting, talking hockey. That's why we do this, and we love the sport. We love talking about the NHL and the world of hockey. So excited you guys are along for the ride with us, whether it's good or bad, or if you hate my guts or love my takes. I appreciate the following regardless. I'm glad we can make a difference in your guys' world. And shout out at all of our followers, and we're gonna continue doing this for the playoffs and beyond. So we're stoked.
Even after the playoffs, then we're gonna be getting into the draft stuff, and we got a lot of fun stuff planned. So
in free agency.
we've got a great offseason coming up. So whether you just found us or you found us at the beginning, we want to say thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next episode.
Peace.